The weight of chrome. The motorcycle had been waiting for 31 years. Not parked, not stored, waiting, the way a dog waits by a door, the way a piano waits for hands that never return. It sat beneath a canvas cover in Henry Vance's garage, collecting dust the way some people collect grievances, slowly without noticing, until the weight became the point. Henry was 73. He had outlived his wife, his brother, 2 dogs, and the assumption that he would ever touch the Honda CB750 again. But on the morning of October 14th, a Tuesday indistinguishable from 10,000 others, he walked into the garage without his coffee, without his newspaper, without the small rituals that had governed his widowhood like training wheels. He simply stood there. Then he reached for the canvas. The bike was smaller than he remembered. Everything was. The fuel tank had faded from candy apple red to something closer to rust, closer to autumn leaves, closer to the color of Kathy's hair in their final September together. He touched the seat. Leather cracked into topographical marks of every mile. They had bought it used in 1978. He was 29, working construction, convinced that manual labor was a kind of honesty. Kathy was 26, teaching 3rd grade, convinced that his silences contained more poetry than other men's speeches. They were both wrong about each other. They were both right enough. That first September, they rode to the coast. Kathy wore his leather jacket, sleeves rolled to her elbows, laughing into the wind with her eyes closed. He kept checking to make sure she was still there. She always was. The bike made a sound like continuous thunder, and her laughter cut through it like a solo instrument. And Henry thought, this is what people mean when they talk about happiness without knowing they're talking about something temporary. He didn't know yet. Nobody does. The accident happened in March. Black ice on Highway 26 near the Sandy River. He'd been riding conservatively. He was always conservative. But conservatism means nothing to physics. The rear wheel lost purchase. The bike went sideways. Kathy's weight shifted wrong, or right, or exactly as it had to. She broke her arm in 2 places. Clean breaks, the doctor said, almost admiringly. She would heal stronger. But Henry broke something else, something that doesn't appear on x-rays. He developed a relationship with gravity that bordered on religious, a constant awareness of falling, of the thin margin between upright and catastrophe. He sold the Honda 6 weeks later. Kathy didn't speak to him for 2 days, which in their marriage constituted a seismic event. I wasn't angry about the arm, she told him years later, over wine and a fire that needed tending. I was angry that you let fear make your decisions, that you parked something we loved because it scared you once. I was trying to protect you. I know. That's what made it unbearable. She died in April, 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, fast and indifferent as a train schedule. Henry sat by her bed holding her hand, the same hand that had healed stronger, that had touched his face in the garage on the morning he covered the Honda for what he thought was forever. She never asked him to ride again. That wasn't Kathy's way. She simply made sure he knew where the key was. Just in case, she said, 2 weeks before the end, her voice thinned by morphine, but her eyes still holding that particular clarity that had always outpaced his own. Some machines deserve second chances. Some people do too. The Honda started on the 3rd kick. Henry felt it in his sternum, before his ears. That low vibration that seems to come from the earth itself, up through the frame, into your hands, reminding you that machines are just organized energy, that riding is just a conversation between momentum and intention. He let it warm up. Old habits. The engine note changed as the cylinders heated, becoming richer, more complex, like a voice clearing its throat. He wore the old helmet. It fit differently now. His face had settled into new geometries, grief and time reshaping the architecture. The visor was scratched, creating faint diffusion at the edges of his vision, as if the world were already becoming memory. He didn't plan a route. That had been their way. Let's ride to nowhere. And he found, with something close to vertigo, that his hands remembered what his mind had buried. The clutch, the throttle, the subtle counter-pressure of the front brake. The body learns differently than consciousness. The body keeps score in muscle and tendon, in the automatic calculations of balance and lean. The old highway had been widened, smoothed, made efficient. But the river remained. the same brown-green rush that had witnessed their accident, that had carried their younger selves toward the coast and back. Henry pulled over at the overlook where they had always stopped. The same guardrail, or its descendant. The same view of water cutting through basalt, relentless and indifferent and beautiful. He killed the engine. The silence that followed was not empty. It held the residual ringing of exhaust, the cooling tick of metal, the wind moving through the gorge with a sound like sustained inhalation. He took off the helmet. His hair, what remained, moved in the breeze. He was 73. He had survived the things he feared. He had survived the loss of the person who made fear worthwhile. The Honda sat beneath him, patient, warm, waiting as it had always waited, not judging his absence, not demanding explanation, simply present, simply possible, simply there, an argument against the narrative that we become only what we have lost. Henry thought about Kathy's hand in his, that final week. He thought about the physics of it. The way a motorcycle stays upright, only through motion, through continuous adjustment, through the willingness to lean into turns rather than resist them. The way life, perhaps, operates on similar principles. The way stillness is a kind of falling, and movement, even uncertain movement, is a kind of faith. He started the engine again. Easier now. First kick. He did not ride fast. That was never the point. He rode at the speed of attention, the light through October branches, the river holding the sky's reflection, without claiming to be the sky, the bike responding to his intentions like an old friend who had never held his absence against him. The road did not need to. Memory was his burden, his gift, his engine, and his brake. He carried it forward, into the afternoon, into the ordinary miracle of continued existence, into the weight and the weightlessness of chrome and time, and the courage required to begin again. The end. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more stories.